Okay, I want to clarify what I meant with my recent post. It's 7:11 right now. 7:11. Post on 7:11. I have a tendency of staying up for 24 hours a day. Damn. Anyways, I don't know. I think it's normalization. I get that people assume that nature is what creates normal, is the foundation of everything. But I don't think so. I'm actually really disgusted by it. And it always switches between two things, my opinion on reproduction. It's either I hate it or I like it. I don't know. Obviously, hedonism, you're not going to go, oh, I'm a Aztecian, I'm a Puritist. I would never partake in such unholy nature. But then again, the entire foundation of it and how it's set up by culture to be this sort of competition, I guess, it's really, really, really weird. I don't really want to say this shit out loud, but like these doms and subs, and it's so weird. It is. They're normalizing power dynamic, and it's for all of these sexualities, not just straight people, but straight people made it, and I really have an issue with straight people, especially doing it. I don't think heterophobia exists, but if it does, I'm definitely heterophobic because I don't like. There's a clear power dynamic between the people who control the current culture and has for a long, long time and set themselves up to be sort of dominant, overpowering structure, and one that they set up in their own culture to be a weaker one. You're creating a horrible power dynamic that is kind of exploitative, if I'm honest. Wives have been treated like slaves for forever, and it's like normal because straight people. I hate sparkling water, I really do. But I bought this on Costco, by the way. It's like different calorie-free, sodium-free, sweetener-free, like lemon-flavored lime. I don't Costco. But basically, it's just like, and even in the act of reproducing itself, there's an obvious power imbalance with how it's always like the men, the whole structure. But even the counterculture thing with like submen and stuff, that's still a power dynamic to which it's weird. It's weird. Because it's just fetishized control over people. Once again, it's just, oh yeah, I'm exploiting someone and putting my power over them. But it's sexual, so it's completely fine, guys. Isn't that the same logic pedophiles use? And this is why certain things have been normalized that now are such an issue, because now we're kind of realizing that's exploitation. That's you're just straight up assaulting someone. You can't just do that. Like, but before it's completely fine because we were deluded. And I get it. Gay people have the same thing, the whole dom sub top bottom stupid subculture shit. It's so annoying. It really is, and it pisses me off. Ugh. At least there, it's like some sort of level of equality culture-wise. Like, yes, I guess gay culture actually does have a sort of reactionary element to it. I mean, i.e., how because of stereotypes we have created this sort of restructuring of gender roles where it's like you have two gay men suddenly in all these bad representation that people nowadays are suddenly like defending, like they're defending bad representation because, well, we need to be bad, that's how we get our point across, but not like this. You're doing harm by creating gender roles in gender roles. It's the whole issue I take with Omega first. I hate Omega first. I really have to say, every time I think of it, I get disgusted or get like really interested in the social, economic, and cultural issues of the world and how it not work out in real life. But I usually hate it. It's degenerate. I hate the entire structure of it, and it's just normalizing. Well, I don't think I have to say what it's normalizing. Read one and you're gonna see. But the basic idea is it's the same thing as real life, except for even worse because they had actual biology to defend the structure we have in real life. You know, people who say like in real life, oh, she was on her period, she couldn't say no or something. I've actually heard that. That's not something I made up on the spot. I actually heard someone say that, like, unironically, which doesn't even make sense if you think biologically wise. But then in this stupid false world someone created, Omega First, it's like, well, he was just on his feet, and it's like biologically that kind of, you can't make a story, a whole universe, world building, just to defend stuff like that by adding literal biology to defend it. And I just think it's gross. But that's kind of what people are doing, but in like a less way. With all this stuff with like sub and dom and stuff, you're just straightifying gay people. I hope you know that. And I don't like straights. I really don't. I've said this before. Okay, there's no more in my can. Yeah. So, the thing about them is that the entire existence of straight people, I mean, first of all, unbelievably unnatural. I mean, I know people like to make memes about like, oh look, homosexual marriage is so natural and heterosexual marriage is so unnatural. But unironically, heterosexuality is artificial. It's unnatural. Like ignoring sex for a moment, like biologically, ignoring that, I don't care. In how dynamic works out, the entire heterosexual dynamic is artificially created using culture. We can agree with that. The entire way it works out and the way they do for reproduction, do all of it is artificially made. I don't want to say gay people are more natural. I don't want to say that. I mean, I could argue that every animal is technically gay to some extent, except for the ones who have their own culture. Penguins have their own culture, or really, if you want to like put it into words, it's just like a refers of our culture. Or I don't want to put it on like certain animals that really do have an established culture of this stuff, but really, uncultured animals or animals that are cultured in a more primitive and less civilized way tend to be gay. And not in a, oh, well, they have like male on male biologically action, but like the idea of gender, not like biological sex, but gender. These animals don't actually have gender. If you want to assume all of them are men or all of them are women, in dynamic, dynamic on how the culture portrays these kind of relationships and stuff. They're okay if you're thinking in actual dynamic and culture and stuff. I don't think no, I do think dynamic exists in a way, like the physical material dynamic, but I think it's extremely influenced by human minds and culture to the point it's not subjective, because the dynamic has no dualistic. It's not, it's not something that you. What's my theory again? It's not dualistic. It's pretty much a material thing. It's a connection of two objects materially. And my third big methodology thing was, damn, if I could remember. You get the point. You get the point, though. Basically, honestly, I would argue that heterosexual marriage is actually less natural than gay marriage. And that's not like a new concept. That's not like something big or special or different. It's just like common sense. And so like Danny's wrote. And basically, damn, I completely lost my point here. So I had heterosexually is unnatural. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah, it's completely artificially made. And I don't know, people defend it too much. The whole thing with sex is that it's a normalized power imbalance. It really is. If you really think about it, what they're doing is making something gross, power dynamics that is technically it's natural because evolution or whatever, but things that aren't good, not in the actual moral sense, but in a, it's not good for one of them beneficially, and usually they would try to avoid that. Therefore, it's unethical if you're trying to say consent and stuff. It's not fully consensual. No power dynamic is fully consensual. So what they're doing basically is normalizing something that's not fully consensual. I'm not going to use good or bad in these kinds of words, I guess. And they're trying to play it off as different or similar. No, different or like better off or like a completely different thing. Don't even compare it to something gross like zoophilia. Same power dynamic, one doesn't have the ability to consent because the other has, okay, not zoophilia, it'd be more comparable to like pedophilia or something, because one technically has the ability to consent, but the problem is that the whole power dynamic things, it doesn't matter if they do, it doesn't, and that's the problem with it. That's the entire problem of how heterosexuality has played out because of evolution. It's completely artificial. It's justifying really weird power dynamics, and it's never fully consensual because of the way that culture has preferred a gender. And they try to play it off as natural, because look, animals usually only do it with like ones of the opposite sex. Well, gender and sex are different things. That's a problem. Gender is, as far as I'm gonna say, it's not real. Sex doesn't really change anything except for like reproductive stuff and like, defense or aggress, and even those it's to a limited number where it doesn't actually affect day-to-day life. Men are not more aggressive by nature. No, they can be more aggressive because of like the whole child thing, but that's only like in a certain part of people's lives, and that's not just backed up by testosterone. That's not how it works. It's a mentality thing. Same thing opposite with women and stuff. But the thing is, how gender portrays it is they change it and they try to make testosterone some sort of thing that makes men aggressive and violent and stuff, and like the opposite, which already just kind of proves that nature is kind of a little rapey. So, gross. But But ignoring that, the whole thing with like gender and stuff is that testosterone really doesn't actually affect that. It's only like limited numbers. Women can be with high test. No, they can't be with high testosterone, but low estrogen or whatever. And that can, for some reason, to these people's logic, be the same as having high testosterone because they don't actually like apply real logic to it. You just think if you're less girly, then suddenly you're more manly or something. It's seriously. And the whole estrogen thing, I don't really understand chemicals, but what I do know is that that's not how it works. And it's been proven cases where people who grow up without a sort of culture actually act mostly similar to an extent outside of our reproductive standards than anything else. They have no difference. It's all socially constructed. Now, isolation is it's its own culture. You cannot escape culture. That's impossible. Isolation is its own culture. Isolation is something where you have no clue of things, so you create your own understanding of things. And that understanding, if you lock a kid in a room completely white with nothing to do, if they have a body, they already have a beginning for their culture. If they see the white walls, they already have a beginning. If they have their senses, they have a beginning. All they have to do is create it, and you could call it philosophy or a mindset. It's not going to change anything. It's a culture of one. And that sort of thing that you've just created is isolation. But they still have a basic creation and falsities and idea of how things work when that's not how they actually work. You can call it C-sex ideology without the economy parts, but it's not. Because the difference is, when it comes to culture, nihilism is not the ultimate acceptance of culture. Nihilism can be the ultimate acceptance of class culture, which would be like ideology. Ideology is class culture, I guess. I don't know. I don't really understand neoliberal stuff anymore because it's just a mix of everything. It's the ultimate synthesis between state and class. Class and culture. It screws everything up and creates things like ideology to mess people up. Ideology is to be a simple thing. The economy would lie to people to prove itself right. Now, the economy uses culture to lie to people through economic bases to make people sort of reliant on the lie in the first place and see it as something that must be true no matter what. And if you realize this, chances are you're even more engraved in the ideology than ever before. Realizing the ideology and being against it and seeing it as false is accepting it. That's because class is a more complicated issue, and apathy in class is the worst thing one can do. Apathy in culture is the best thing one can do, because culture is reliant on everything. Class has an end goal. Culture has no end goal. Class, it's a dialect. I've already said this. Class is a dialect, and we've tried to create a dialectal solution to it, Marxism. You have utopia, you achieve it through getting rid of commodities like a Bordigist. I'm not going to talk about Bordiga, don't expect that ever. Really don't. But, trust me, it's like kind of easy to understand the situation because there's a dialectal solution to ideology, to class. You want to know why there's an easy solution to class? Because class is dialect. It's mostly in a way kind of equal. I don't want to use Stalin's idea of dialect, and you saw me using that on the paper. Remember over here, I drew a little thing, and it was like Stalin's idea of how Marxist dialect worked. Let me tell you something. Stalin's a dumbass. Stalin doesn't know what he's talking about. So I'm going to say that I'm not going to say that what Stalin said was right. I'm going to go, oh yeah, no, that's totally how it works, guys. This is not it. This drawing right here. But what I will say is that Marxist dialect has the contrarian side, a sort of negation, to be stronger than the thing itself. The negation of the negation in a Marxist idea would be a new system. I think this makes sense, actually. Marx said he'd flip Hegel over his head, right? You have the negation, and then you have the positive, and the middle ground. So, I'd say it's the negation of the positive, but it's basically the negation of the positive. You have the negation. You have the revolutionary, the super strong one. The strong one goes first in this scenario, okay? And then you have the upper guy, the rulers already. Like for example, right now, before we had capitalists were the negation, the strong guys, the minority, the revolutionaries, the capitalists, and then over there you had feudalists, the old lords. They were weaker, and then the negation of the positive, which was the old lords and blah blah blah, would be the new system. And that new system would inside of it have its own dialect, and it goes in and in and in and blah blah blah, whatever. The whole idea of capital itself is inspired by Hegelian dialect. Well, not just Hegelian dialect, but Hegelian ideas in general. So really, the idea of Fichte and whatever in Marxism, as Stalin tries to fake it. But the thing about that is it creates an easy way to create a dialectical solution. The revolutionary, the negation is stronger than the positive, and the positive is the one negated. Therefore, it becomes easier to find a solution to this, a shift, an end goal, right? Culture works differently. Culture works more in line to Hegel. If Hegel kind of like hit his head with a hammer, I've already explained this. Culture absorbs the negation. In here, it's less Hegel and more, I guess I could say Fichte, but not really. And I don't want to say like Schelling, because honestly, fill me in with nature philosophy. I had to watch a ton of German idealism and I didn't even get a thing. But basically, I don't think Schelling would be the right word. His idea was Schelling, it was his dialect. Expanding would be like the thesis. Expanding and collapsing would be like the antithesis. It was less of like a thing, but more based upon nature. Since nature was everything and man was a part of nature, and social norms and social stuff and all these idealistic stuff was just the application of nature in its highest form, he believed it worked just like nature. Nature grows, nature dies, it reaches a synthesis, blah, 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 blah. Balance and stuff. But he also believes that it grows and it evolves, right? Even with the balance. I guess it's kind of like culture in a way. Yeah. But different. Culture makes sure that evolution is entirely faked. There's no actual gain in any of this counterculture. Okay, example. So, I guess with culture, it's, if you want to use it in different ways, culture is, there's the main culture, right? It's the main thesis, expanding, self, whatever you want to call it. And then there's the counterculture, which is weaker than the culture. Well, yeah, it could be weaker, the same, it doesn't matter, because culture will always win in this. And counterculture is just a form of culture anyway, so it doesn't matter if it wins, because you're still creating a... So this weaker counterculture is absorbed by the culture. You can call, I guess if you want to use Schelling terms, which I actually want to right now, culture expanding is culture. It's growing, it's conserving, it's kind of like a balance in a way, but not balanced. The counterculture is the collapse, this system's kind of bad, let's try to fix it, the collapse of culture. When you mix it together, it kind of breaks it in a way, it changes it, it creates a synthesis that isn't balanced, but it prefers one over the other. It's an evolution like Schelling. And this cultural dialect, this new culture is, it's just culture, but with the counterculture inside of it, not entirely resolved. It's still broken. It's like a plant that just expanded, got a sickness slightly dying out, but we're curing the sickness with like healthcare and stuff, but it's still there. And it's important because culture does not die out, it just absorbs all its weaknesses, and those weaknesses create more weaknesses, such as the culture and the counterculture of the feminist movement. Well, culture one that, like, they absorbed it. That's what they do. They absorbed Alpha Group. And now, because it failed to properly absorb it, like, it never fully properly absorbs anything, when it doesn't properly absorb it, there creates the manosphere, the idiots who think they're being oppressed just because, bad stuff is still happening to women, but why are we saying it's bad? Wow. They're crybabies, honestly. Like, you're the privileged one, and you're going, oh, but I want to be more privileged. Stop. Okay, dude. But anyways, because of the failed uh, uh, um, observe, absorption, it becomes it it creates a counterculture. In that counterculture, from the culture doesn't mix well with it, and it creates a counterculture, which becomes the new counterculture and undoes the progress in the way. Now, of course, Manosphere hasn't won yet. I'm not saying Manosphere's gonna win. I'm saying that they're probably gonna fuck things up, like real bad, but they're not gonna win. But it undoes some of the progress we already had. Yeah, we get that, right? I mean, with gays and stuff, you get the counter, that thing that arises from not fully absorbing it. The culture grows, it collapses a little, but it's still growing. It absorbs the collapse, and that's a synthesis. Then, because it absorbs the collapse, it gets another collapse, and it just keeps going, kind of like that. It's not ever gonna fully die because culture doesn't die. It doesn't, but it's just like absorbing all the issues. I guess Schelling's dialect was actually a really good way to explain this one. Oh yeah, this is about how I don't like sex and heterosexualities and stuff. Basically, I think with the gay movement and how it went, straights, it's not a solution to culture as there is to Hegelian. There's not a solution to culture as there is class. And straights, they're a completely different topic, and I don't know why I have these both in the same place. Yeah, I don't know why I'm trying to tie it back together. There's no correlation. But basically, I don't like straight people because it's kind of like fetishizing, but not really fetishizing. Yeah, no, it is fetishizing a power dynamic. It's fetishizing a dangerous power dynamic for the sake of it, just because. And they act like it's normal. I can partake in power dynamics if I want. I don't care. Like, I don't even know for the whole incest thing, but the whole thing is, if you know it's wrong, well, nothing's really wrong, but if you know that it's kind of harmful for one person, but it's not harmful for you, you do whatever. But if you're going to try to normalize it to yourself and others and try to like pretend like you're doing something good by this, or like play it off as natural and impede on others' wills, just because no, we're the true way. Yeah, us the rapists, we're the true way. Shut up. Yeah, just shut up. Like, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And that's really it. I actually think that Schelling's dialect was a really good way to explain the problem of culture, as opposed to Hegel's dialect with class. Is two different things. That's why we can't solve culture with a Marxist understanding. Marx can solve class, but how is he supposed to solve culture? And with solving class, really, he hasn't done it yet because of the utopian socialist project of Lenin screwing it up and making everyone hate communists. You know, Lenin, I appreciate your work there in getting a stable system, but your system screwed things up for us. I mean, you need a place without commodities to be truly socialist. That does not exist yet. But we have the idea of a solution. That's the thing. For culture, we do not. The only thing I have is everyone turns nihilist and the world and society collapses on itself and everyone starts dying. Because there's no free ideology. You can say egoism. The self is a spook. I've already said this before. You don't exist. And also the ego and the will, it portrays the will to always be live. If you take post pessimism and force it into egoism, you get the problem that the ego has a will. The will is either live, die, hedonism, or whatever. Guess what? Stern always proposes that the ego wants to live. Therefore, it's kind of like the rocky road. He makes all of his assumptions based off of this holds back my freedom. This holds back my freedom. We should discard spooks just because state doesn't exist because okay, I can agree state doesn't exist, but the monopoly on violence does exist, which is what kind of defines the state in a way. The only difference is the state is like the same thing as a terrorist group if you really think about it. So the monopoly of violence is not unique to a state, therefore it can't be a state. So it's a different thing. But yeah, monopoly of violence does exist. That's why you can't go and do whatever you want. And he doesn't get into culture and how that affects the ego and stuff. He just goes abandon everything and do what you want, not knowing that what you want could be culturally induced and could be not really too helpful, and in the end it's just affected by spooks of value. Like what you want has value. It's so valuable. It's so it's a spook. It's a spook. You don't really have value to do what you want. You're not like entitled to that, and you don't really have like the will and the ego are both spooks already, because the will's connected to the ego. But even if the ego did exist and the will did exist, he kind of assumed something already. And if we were going to say, well, what if you want to like die, that suddenly is like not. I don't know. It's just considered different. It's not considered on the same level. He values strangely. I already wrote a critique on Stern somewhere. On the will and the ego. Go read that, I guess. Really short because they talk too fast. I don't know. I guess there's only two real things that control people in the way culture does, and that's culture and class. I don't know what's for the third one that I'm gonna use Ficht's dialect for, so I can get all of the German idealistic dialects and shove them all into one philosophy to brainwash myself. I made a little pseudo philosophy somewhere to try to like mix a ton of ideas into some nonsensical system. But honestly, I gave up on that. And that's no way influencing me or any part of my philosophy as a person. That is just a pseudo philosophy joke. To clarify, it is a joke based upon Ayn Rand's idiocracy and making fun of her by making a German idealistic version of her. Yeah. And stuff. Oh, Ayn Rand, yeesh. I mean, you can't just create objective moral. You can't just create a moral set code for yourself. You're creating culture for yourself again, and those morals you're creating anyways are probably affected by your culture and your will and all these other spooks. So you're still falling under the guise of culture anyways. I don't know. So straight, yeah, whatever. I've come to the realization on transits. I still don't like transids, like, those guys. Those guys who go, I'm trans essayed, I'm trans Asian, I'm. All I'm gonna say is that race doesn't exist, so I guess you can go do whatever you want with that, but you can't change your skin color or say slurs. Like, I mean, I don't mean like morally. I don't care what you do morally. But I mean, if you don't want to get beaten up on the streets, and if you don't want to get canceled, kind of rightfully so, I gotta say, because I mean, you're kind of doing that to yourself, then don't say that stuff and then go, well, you know, I'm actually trans Asian. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. I mean, race doesn't exist, but the oppression that's done by race sure does exist. I guess the thing about gender in that is that if you change races, people aren't gonna start oppressing you just because you change races. If you change genders, they're gonna start oppressing you like right away. Like if you turn into a girl like trans, they're going to like treat you like a girl, and that kind of sucks. So I guess there you actually do gain and lose certain privileges and stuff. So at least that has like some things to back it up, I guess, that transits usually don't. The only thing I agree with Radcliffe about is the parasexuality thing. That's it. Yeah. I hate human psychology. I don't know. Okay, seriously, it's so boring. People want to pretend it's so different and big and logical and stuff. Hey guys, let's watch Lacan and CSAC. Lacan. I failed to spell Lacan multiple times, by the way, if you couldn't tell. But they pretend it's something big and huge. It's like he's a structuralist. Like some sort of ow. Did I just crack my neck? I don't know if you guys heard that, but that was like, holy. That was huge. Yeah, Schopenhauer. The only thing Schopenhauer did for this world was create, what's his name? Mainlander? And then Mainlander took it on from there. I don't care about Schopenhauer. I really don't. Spinoza, I guess nature, if you replace nature for material, then you have just reality. And of course, they're all ethical. I mean, like, mental egoists. Of course, your entire logic is based around your current situation and how you're thinking and stuff. And, like, what's happening to you and how to benefit yourself. Because that's how humans work. Yes, if I see a tiger and I'm about to get attacked, of course I'm going to run from the tiger. You're acting like this is new information. All it proves is that humans are uncomplicated. Convincing John von Neumann. No, sorry, I already knew who that was. I'm just like really surprised. I didn't think he could. But basically, I just don't. Yes, I guess if you want to be a philosopher, you have to be, in some degree, a Spinozian. A Spinoza is because, I mean, he just writes down stuff that's like completely obvious and pretends he's so special for saying it. Guys, you're so special for running away from the lion. Guys. Oh, you can't tell I'm moving my head in a no motion. saying no. It's crazy. I don't really have anything else to say. I think I really did something with the whole adding to the dialect of culture and stuff in the growth and stuff, I guess. But I don't really know if I'm really honest. I'm just really tired. Because it's 7:51. It's 7:51. Oh, and the will to power by a niche. I forgot to mention this. That has nothing to do with the normal will. I don't even know what he's trying to say before that. I don't know. I think everything I can say is just stupid nonsense trying to make humans seem more special and bigger than they really are. No, there's no such thing as like all of this other stuff. You wanna know the truth about Lakian? Like the truth about people from Lak and Lakin? Here's the truth. People are really simple. There's no some sort of free big order. There's no delusions. There's no thing in people's minds. It's as simple as you, the stupid stuff that holds you back and makes you a bad person, being insecurity and whatever, and I guess that's kind of it. And like, I don't know, if you have a mental disorder, then that too, but that's usually from like trauma, and trauma turns into insecurity that represses itself into some form or shape. You know, majority of things are just that. I mean, yeah. I guess I'm the only exception to that, but you know, whatever, because I'm literally God, so. Oh no, it's so narcissistic. I got criticism for that earlier. I left. Yeah, I just left. I don't need to be listening to all this. But whatever. I just wish there was a solution to culture, and maybe one day I will create it. One day. Magnum opus? Magnum opus, yes. So I should probably get back on track. Something straight. Damn, I have no idea. I don't like it. I guess. Well, 42 minutes of this stuff. Say goodbye. Oh, and do not read Bordiga. Trust me. You will get tired of reading Bordiga. I really don't like reading Bordiga. I really don't. Stop using words I don't understand. Really.